There's the clock. There's the speaker. There's the microphone.
Welcome back to the Pure Land, Todd. It's been a long 2 years without you. Oh, clip it. How's this? That's great. You know, trying to remember how many years ago, I think it might even be 30 now or more, when we were just beginning our practice on Ohio Street, the house where Judy and I lived, and then a bunch of us lived together in another house down the street. There was on the corner a Shin Buddhist group, and that was their practice, and somehow we didn't congregate at all. We just knew of each other's existence, but I ran into one of them on the street somewhere, and talked about the practice, and I was impressed by it. You know, it's almost strictly a chanting practice, and we actually do chant. We have a Namo Amitabha chant, and it's just like the Kwanzaa and Bosal melody. So Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha. Everybody, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha. So now we're all going to be reborn in the Western Pure Land. That would be Kansas. So, does anyone have a question? It's a question and answer time, or question response might be a better word for it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can everyone hear? Yeah.
Okay. I was reading something, and this comes up quite a bit when I run up against something. This particular instance had to do with the destroying of books. This was like before the Dark Ages. Mm. And as I was reading it, or writings, I don't know, their form of books at that time, I'm not sure what it was, but writings of a particular person. And they were destroyed because they didn't fall in line with the church's doctrine at the time. So, and I thought, they've been destroying or burning books for so long. And then my thought is, where's impermanence? So obviously I'm misunderstanding impermanence, because it seems, isn't there supposed to be change? Aren't things supposed to change? Things aren't supposed to be the same. Yet they have been burning books or destroying materials, destroying books since before the Dark Ages. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't it change? So I guess my question is, what is impermanence, and some of those things that keep coming up? I've had the same problem with patriarchy. Aren't things supposed to change? They're not supposed to stay the same. That's impermanence. So why do we still have these things?
Yeah. So
what's impermanence?
Changing my original home, and everything is always changing. But we have our time frames, So we don't perceive change so easily when it takes, say, a millennium, 1,000 years. But a millennium is not really a very long time. This universe is many billions of years old. So maybe we should say, instead of changing my original home, slowly changing my original home. Yeah, it's true. Human beings and probably all living beings, kind of get stuck in their physical and psychological makeup. And that's very difficult to change. Now, impermanence is not quite the same thing as changing, my original home, or of change. Impermanence means nothing lasts forever. Sometimes it seems, as you're pointing out, as if things do last forever, but it's simply not the case. So we have to broaden our perspectives to take in what is sometimes called infinite time, infinite space. And it seems especially true, I know, for myself in my own practice. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not changing. I'm still the same jerk I used to be, in spite of everybody's best efforts, including my spouse's best efforts to help me be a little better. So that's what we're doing in practice. We practice for each other. We practice to help each other. We practice for this world. We practice to reduce the suffering in this world. So this requires great faith, and it requires really constant effort. And if we don't have great faith, I'm afraid the effort simply will not continue. So that's the only response that I have to your question, except simply to sympathize with you. And actually, you brought up patriarchy, and it seems to me there are some signs that patriarchy is very slowly perhaps dwindling away. So the guiding teacher of the Kansas Zen Center, you may have noticed, is a woman, right? So the guiding teacher of the Quantum School of Zen, the head teacher, Barbara Rhodes, is a woman. So I think we're at least, doing our part here. But there's always a whole lot more work to do. No matter how hard you practice, no matter how faithfully you practice, it's always infinite time, infinite space. So thank you for your question. I think it opens vistas. Are there any other questions? Yes, Austin.
So I've been speaking with my friends, and we seem to have a common problem that Buddhism addresses. And I was hoping for a little bit more direction, perhaps, that I could share with you.
I'm sorry, I can't quite understand you. Maybe, you could remove your mask while you're talking. Maybe I would understand you better. Thank you.
Okay?
Yes, now.
Okay. So I have friends. We all have a common problem, and we ruminate on things. We try to control the future by thinking and planning. Inevitably, we don't. Usually, our plans don't come to fruition, but we spend a lot of time thinking and planning to try and control the future because we're afraid. Usually, it comes from a source of we weren't safe when we were children, so we have all of this extra thinking, all of these dubedas, like Todd would say. And I think we've all collectively come to the conclusion that because we're spending so much time ruminating, we aren't experiencing life in the way that we should be.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the ideas that we're creating that dubedas that don't do us any good.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what the practice is to help clear the dubedas off the board and not put any more there.
Yeah. Yeah, you use the word ruminating. That's actually kind of a metaphor from a cow chewing its cud. That's original rumination. So you need, some digesting. But digesting means that all of this stuff turns into energy. But sometimes, as you're pointing out, it turns into more grief, So it's very easy to overthink things, especially, people who have been to school a lot. So raise your hand if you've gone to school for more than 12 years. I thought so. Yeah, I could tell. Hey, Todd. Yeah, and we're sort of trained to do that. Think, 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 think. Yeah. So Zen Master Seung Sahn was very fond of saying, you must cut off all thinking and just perceive. So of course we have to keep thinking, you know. So if you cut off all thinking, imagine what it would be like if for an hour you cut off all thinking. How does that sound to you? Pretty good, right? Yeah, no more doobie-das, huh? Yeah. So, you know, our practice is, at least for the practice period, to cut off all thinking. So another teaching phrase is just do it, which could mean just plunge into it mindlessly, but it doesn't mean that. It means do it 100%. So our actions are far more consequential, actually, than our thoughts and our rumination and our scheming and our planning and our wishing. Now, all of that doesn't lead really anywhere. Yeah. I'm not saying we can just eliminate planning from our lives. I actually do that unconsciously. I'm not recommending it, you know. And you know, Zen is known for its spontaneity. This comes up very clearly in kong-an interviews, you know. So a kong-an is designed to activate your thinking mind as a trap, you know. And so you think through I think I can see what the logical answer is, you know. So we have kong-an interviews on a regular basis here, you know. I strongly recommend them. They're an intrinsic part of our practice, as much as, you know, sitting on a cushion and chanting. And of course you can do it on Zoom. A lot of people do it. It actually works quite well on Zoom, you know. I mean, I much prefer face-to-face because then you have a stick, you know, and you can really interact. So if you're thinking, you can't think your way to the correct response for a kong-an. Imagine that. How can there be anything like that? Yeah. So simply perceive the situation, you know, and the response comes. Yeah. Cutting through all the overthinking part. So if you haven't already, please consider at least taking kong-an practice, making that a really important part, you know, of your Zen practice. I myself and any experienced practitioner will tell you, you know, you work on a single kong-an for 10 years. Maybe you're passing a few others here and there on the way, kind of a few doobie-das on the way, you know. These little throwaway kong-ans that a teacher gives you to keep your spirits up. But the big kong-ans, yeah, 10 years or more. And just, and that is a very powerful, you know, use the word cleansing experience. Kind of wipes the dirt, you know, off of your mind and things become clearer. It's like, oh yeah, you know, when the correct response, I hesitate to call it an answer, you know, when the correct response appears, it's, oh, yeah. So that too has something to do with what you're talking about. Yeah. And if you are an academic, hurry up and get your PhD so you don't have to do that stuff anymore, okay? Let's see, I think that's about all the time we have. One more question is necessary. I'm looking on the screen. I'm looking in the room. Okay, Ting has a bodhisattva question. Microphone. Yeah, yeah.
And I use that to bow with. I think the same thing. That's my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Namo Amitabha and Amitabha, are they the same thing?
Yeah. Namo Amitabha, same. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of our chants. And I do that a lot, actually, when I practice.
So Namo means
Yeah, Namo becomes one.
oh,
And become one with whatever bodhisattva's name you happen to be chanting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And become one with Amida Buddha. That means you're already in the Western Pure Land. Kansas, man. Okay. Well, thank you all very much.
So some quick announcements.